Hi there, and welcome to Everything Social Media, where we discuss social media and how we can make it benefit our lives through business, e commerce, and everything around it. Today, we are going to look at podcasting. It's a bit of an extension of social media, but it's still relevant nonetheless. And we're going to look at Shelby Church. Shelby Church runs a very good YouTube channel where she discusses a lot of the same things that we're discussing here and how to make the best of it. So, this is how much money a podcast with 50,000 downloads makes. Is a good video for us to dissect and talk about and explore more avenues how we can use it to the best of our ability. So, without any more delay, let's get into it.
So podcasting has been around for a while, but I feel like within the last 2 years, it went full mainstream. In 2019, it seemed like everyone was starting a podcast, from celebrities to YouTubers to your mom's friend's cousin. I mean, it's really become what making a blog was in 2008.
I totally agree with that. We've got the likes of Joe Rogan, we've got everyone and their mother making a podcast and growing it into businesses, which is what we like to talk about here on this channel. So, the word I really like to use is meritocracy. I will keep using it. I love that word because everyone with an iPhone, a laptop, anything in between is able to record a podcast and upload it, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on some of the more native podcast channels like the iTunes, and now Spotify is a big player. Going back to Joe Rogan, that was in the headlines a few weeks ago. So really everyone, and that means everyone's interests, are able to be represented on a podcast channel, a podcast platform, wherever it may be.
I even started listening to a few and really started loving it for mindless tasks, road trips, cleaning, and even now for quarantining. When I saw how many influencers and almost celebrities, like people that have been on The Bachelor, have made podcasts, I thought there's gotta be money in this.
And that's interesting to note because before there were people who'd be on these reality TV shows and they would be waiting for that big deal as they come out, the Big Brother house or The Bachelor or any of these other shows, all in the same in my mind. But they would come out expecting some endorsement deals, TV residencies, appearances, all lined up. But now, especially due to the sheer volume of these types and these type of level of celebrity that is abundant to all of us, they're now having to find their own independent avenues. And again, the word meritocracy, meaning that everyone has access to creating their own platform. And now people see these Z-list celebrities creating their own piece of digital real estate. Other people are realizing, well, I can do the same. I'm interested in cooking. I'm interested in something very niche, World of Warcraft, whatever it may be. And they create their own piece of digital real estate in the podcast space around their interests.
And I was right. Since I don't have a podcast myself, I called on a few people I know with podcasts to figure out how much people make from these. So today we're gonna explore the whole podcasting landscape, how much it costs to get started, and how much you could expect to make.
I'm already gonna jump the gun about how much it costs to make a podcast. As I said earlier on, there's a very low barrier to get into the podcast space. So low barrier of entry, just an iPhone, that's all you need, or whatever your phone persuasion is, laptop, anything to record audio and to upload it. So because of that, it makes it easy for anyone to get involved in this space, and that's why it's grown, because it as not just a platform, because podcasting can be anywhere, but it as a medium is so accessible for people to distribute their own interests. There are going to be people outside that are interested in what you're talking about.
So when it comes to monetizing podcasts, I've found in my research that there's a couple ways people do this depending on the size of the audience. Podcasts that already have a large audience will usually join a podcast network. You've probably heard these at the beginning of very popular podcasts.
Ramble. The following podcast is...
A lot of these networks require at least 50,000 downloads per episode. A podcast network groups together a bunch of popular podcasts and is able to sell the ad space in bulk to advertisers.
As you find with any developing media, before it was radio, then TV, now internet real estate, as I talk about. With podcasting, you get organizations that want to now group these digital assets or distributors of these digital assets into something a bit more than just these individuals distributing willy-nilly. So this is where the likes of these podcasting networks are stem from. So it's interesting to now look at podcasting as a developing medium. As I said before, we had radio, then TV, then various different types of internet real estate. People were distributing on their own accord. Now podcasting is developing into a body of work that has these multiple engines, podcasting networks, now even more established old media networks getting involved. The likes of Charlemagne has been involved with larger radio stations who are developing their own podcasting networks. So now podcasting is seen as a legitimate medium, not just for people to just take in random pieces of information or just follow their social media people that they follow on Instagram, but as a genuine means of distributing content.
Which secures each podcast sponsored ad breaks. This allows each podcast in a network to have access to more sponsorships. So a lot of them are able to have 4 or more ads within a podcast. So people can of course choose where they want to put in these ad breaks. For example, if you've ever listened to Tim Ferriss's podcast, dude puts like 5 minutes straight of an ad in the beginning. I skipped through the whole thing.
So advertising is a very important element, because wherever money flows, that's where you see the attention flows as well. So if people are spending money on digital mediums like podcasting, you'll see that you'll have even bigger players coming to the party. So you see the likes of Joe Rogan, who's now got his podcast moving over to Spotify, and the amount of money that was involved there. You'll see that other people in other mediums, TV, radio, and everything in between, will start to see this as a more legitimate means of developing their own media assets, their own media business, their own shows, whatever it may be. So when you see advertising and you see a structure of advertising through a platform, you then realize that this really is here for the long run, because these facilities, this means of money being exchanged for content, the structure is there for a reason, and that means that podcasting is going to be here for a long time, and it means that we all should be getting involved in the podcasting space if we're looking to develop our own digital presence.
I don't know who is listening to that, but good for him, because I'm sure he's making bank. In fact, I found a blog post he has that pretty much says how much he makes, and guys, it's a lot. And don't worry, we'll go into the specifics of how much people make. We're getting there. So I'm sure there are some networks that do go below 50,000, but in general, podcast networks are going to want people that do have thousands, not hundreds of listeners. But there is a service that will take literally anyone with not even their first listener and let them monetize. And it's,
as I said before, the barrier to entry is very low now for all of these means. So podcasting, what we're talking about today. So for people to be able to, one, distribute their content, and two, make money off their content, however low that amount that they're able to make initially is. That means that low barrier of entry will entice more people to experiment, or to at least explore this as an avenue for them to try and either start a new type of business in the podcasting space, or develop on their existing business, their existing media assets that they're putting out on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. If there's no lower limit for them to start to earn money, whether it be £1, $1 to start off with, then people will be using the podcasting space, and the podcasting space will be growing more and more, as we see now.
It's called Anchor. They're not sponsoring this. I wish they were. So this website Anchor is really common for people that are in the range of 10,000 downloads or less per episode. Like, I literally just signed up for Anchor and they already are letting me do a sponsored ad read. Granted, it is for Anchor itself, so this is probably just their way of getting new users to actually use Anchor. But still, this is a way for people with a smaller following to immediately start monetizing. So let's take a look at the first podcast. This is from Jordan Rebecca, a New York-based YouTuber with a podcast called Bitchwork.
So essentially, I interview all these people in my life who I think are inspirational, give great career advice, and have just like really cool jobs that people would describe as dream jobs super quickly out of college, and kind of talk with them about how they got there, internship advice.
She produces.
Now that's a great example Shelby's looked at, because as I said earlier on, the podcast space, you may find it very niche. Whatever your interests or kinks or whatever it may be that you want to just observe, hear about, learn more about, or just to understand. Many people watch podcasts just to understand different people's points of view, political, social, whatever it may be. So having that space where people's specific interests, talents, ideas are explored gives podcasting a big advantage over the old medias like radio and TV, programmatic TV, to be more specific, because at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday evening, you sit down, you might not want to be watching whatever the TV channels are dictating that you watch. You may be wanting to hear a little bit about how to put a sprocket in a piece of wood or whatever it may be. And that's where podcasting has developed, not necessarily all the podcasts in their breadth, but the depth of information, of the type of entertainment, and the key word here is niche here, that they're providing the audiences around the world. We will end that there. So that was great to see a little bit of Shelby Church's video. I won't play any more. I'll put the link in the description below if you want to watch the rest. And thank you for tuning in. We've been exploring a little bit about podcasting and the pros about getting involved in the podcasting space. I advise you all to at least try it. Explore some of these platforms that allow you to develop your own media content, whether it be audio and visual, audio or visual, and this clearly is an audio means, but as I said before, with the likes of Joe Rogan, who's got a video podcast, in which we might explore a little another time on another video. Podcasting really is here to stay. So, as always, we like to explore, talk about social media, how it can be used for business, how it can be used to put yourself out there, and there should be more. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it, Feel free to subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. And put in the comments what you think I should be exploring next in the world of social media and digital assets that we can put out there to the world to develop ourselves, our businesses, and whatever we're interested in. So until the next one, take care.